Welcome to the channel. On today's episode, we've got the legendary man, Matt Spruce. This is one has been a while in the making. We've tried to get Matt on in the past, but our diaries just never quite aligned. Matt is a veteran, fellow Agile coach. I've had the good fortune to work with him. He organises a conference, the Not Another Agile Conference, as well as being a podcast host himself on the CapB podcast. And on top of all that, he's a sock baron. So let's jump in and see what's all that about. Cool. So, Matt, thanks for coming down. Bit of a trip down from Gloucester. Hopefully the traffic weren't too bad.
Yeah, it's all right.
This has been a while in the making. We've had a couple of failed attempts in between there as well. But listen, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. So for, the folks down on the camera, the very few who haven't heard of you, give them a bit of a brief overview of who you are and what you do.
First of all, thanks, Matt. Thanks for coming on. It has always been my intention to come on the podcast. We just haven't managed to make it align. My name is Matt Spruce. I am an Agile coach or an Agile professional, whichever way you want to sort of put it. And I previously served in the military for 23 years. I left the military in 2021 and got a job working in financial services as an Agile coach, working alongside actually previous guest, Jonathan Kessfell. Did that for a few years, and again, fell in love more with Agile, more with facilitation and training. Lots of blended skills I could brought across from the military. And then following there, I moved sort of into the defence sector, doing the same job. But it just made, for me, it made more sense. I could understand, should I say, defence language, and certainly what that military community wanted. So, and that's what I do now. So work as a facilitator, trainer, Agile coach in defence.
Awesome. Cool. And, thinking about that transition out of the military and then into agility, tell us a bit about that. What was the kind of learnings from that transition? Was there any, I don't know, maybe myths or anything that you ended up busting that people would tell you before you were leaving the military and you came into civilian life?
Yeah, I think first of all, I think it's really important to note that leaving the military is difficult.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you've served a full career, 22, 23 years, or whether you've served for 2 or 3 years, that transition of moving from the military into industry, into whatever industry that is difficult. It's a challenge. The military isn't a job. It's very much a way of life. It's a bit of a calling. You live with the people you're working with. You deploy all over the world, and it's a very different challenge to then coming out of that and just getting what you'd call as a job. I think one of the biggest challenges of leaving the military is knowing where you can work and knowing what jobs are available.
Yeah.
Because, you understand some of the big names, your Amazons and your Barclays and the others. You heard of those, but there are so many organisations out there, and I think that's the hardest thing, is working out what employment is available to you. And there's a couple of organisations that do it really well. A friend of mine started a company called Forces Transition Group, and it's a really good alternative for leaving the military and transitioning. It gives you an opportunity to see loads of different companies and loads of different opportunities and jobs, which you can then maybe focus on. So I think that's the hardest thing, is working out what that looks like. With regards to myths, I think it almost goes the other way, is when you work in industry, there are still some myths about what it's like employing veterans and what your military career was like, and was it all shouting and drill squares and all the the very stereotypical stuff you see on telly. Okay. And it really isn't. The military community and the veteran community are an incredibly talented group of people who understand resilience, they understand communication, facilitation, leadership, mentorship. They understand complex problem solving, and I think that is a real asset to loads of organisations. Yeah. With regards to Agile, it's the ability to facilitate and the ability to get people to deliver things more efficiently. It's kind of what I did my whole career. So it just worked for me. It worked, having the ability to get the best out of people, understanding how to highlight problems and the opportunity to get the best out of teams and look at how they get highlight their problems in their teams, and making that work transparent. I think that's where I found it like a nice transition. Yeah. It was almost like a job that was suited for me.
Yeah. from that previous skill. One of the things we're both involved with is the Agile group.
Yeah.
And it's something, obviously, I haven't served in the military, but it's something I really enjoy being a part of, because I see people within that group and, they're asking the questions, and you can see people across the group then contributing. And even though I've been able to contribute. So very recently, family members of mine, I've seen them transition out of the military, and they made some really, I think it's fair to say they took some roles at first because they didn't know what they didn't know, and they ended up going into a few jobs that it didn't really work out for them. They didn't enjoy it, and they were there a shorter time and so forth. And they made some mistakes because they probably didn't have that network of people like the Agile group to be able to leverage, and the Forces Transition group and so forth. Whereas, because of that, one of those guys who's made that mistake beforehand, someone is in their transition now. I don't think they've pulled the trigger yet, but they know that, it's coming. And I was able to line up a conversation between Jamie and this one of the guys on the Agile group, to be able to have a chat, because he is thinking of going into the exact job that Jamie is in now. And it was nice to be able to do that, because, as I said, I have seen it where others have made the mistake because they haven't had the informed choice. They've had to make a guess. And, even with that informed bit, but at least it's an informed guess, as opposed to just going with your gut instinct, right?
I think that is a challenge, because one of the first things and the biggest concerns for people leaving the military is money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's money. So the first thing they think about is, I need a job to have a salary.
Yeah.
I need a job. I need to earn X amount of money, because that will allow for me to pay my mortgage, pay X, pay Y, pay Z.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll take a job, like you said, that isn't fitting. It doesn't align with what they want to get out of it. And I think that's one of the real beauties of groups like the Agile group, which is a complete voluntary group run by Jake Rowley and Wayne Smallman, both veterans,
Yes.
And both very successful in industry now. I think that opportunity to have conversations with people who have, trod that path before you, and also who have made mistakes and have, gone through the process of applying for jobs in these industries, and having that network to be able to bounce ideas off is key. Somebody said to me when I was leaving the military that use LinkedIn, it's really important, build your network up. And I thought, that's a load of rubbish. It's a load of rubbish. There's no way that's how you get a job.
Yeah.
You get a job by having a CV, by applying for a job, and then they give you a job.
And you've done a lot of courses.
You've done all the courses, and then you go and get a job. And it is, honestly, my biggest advice for anyone in the military or leaving the military is create a profile on LinkedIn and start engaging with people who are doing the jobs that you want to do, because that network is so, so important. And it's led to almost all of the roles I had since leaving the military. And I've made some really close friends, including yourself, from working outside of the military. And I never knew that was a possibility, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And groups like the Agile group, and
the transition group,
the Forces Transition Group is another opportunity, and there are many others. There's so many organisations out there who support veterans, and it's not about making money. It's about genuinely just supporting people who have done the stuff that you've done before. A lot of these organisations are totally free to veterans. They're totally free, so it's like an opportunity for you to go and either have some insights in some learning, or attend some conferences and do all this kind of thing, and it's totally free. So it's an opportunity as a veteran or certainly a service leaver to just glean information so that you make a better informed choice, because no one wants to bounce off the job. No. And if you can, as you transition out of the military, find the job that's going to suit your values, going to suit align with what you want to achieve, then that's much better than, like you said, bouncing around 2 or 3 different jobs and trying to get that consistency and that continuity,
Absolutely. So, as we were saying there, you transition out of the military and into the world of agility. Talk to us a bit about that, that transition, and what were some of the mistakes maybe that you made early on in the Agile space?
Mistakes plenty.
Yeah.
Is first of all is absolutely plenty of mistakes. One of the whether it's a mistake, but I had a huge lack of confidence in delivering stuff because I hadn't done it before. I delivered training workshops, everything in my military career over 23 years at all levels to all organizations. And it's like when you all of a sudden you're working within financial services in Canary Wharf. And I remember like getting off the train, getting on the tube, the Elizabeth line, getting off at Canary Wharf and going into HSBC for the first time thinking, what am I doing here? You know, I grew up in North Wales. I went to school in Rhyl, bounced around like 3 high schools as I was growing up. And now I'm about to walk into work at Canary Wharf, talking to people in financial services, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit. That people talk about imposter syndrome, I felt it. I felt it big, you know. And it's the biggest challenge I think is getting over that.
Yeah.
And once you're over that and you realise they're just people, you're just people who have got a problem, and you've been dealing with people with problems your whole career. And that's all we want. Certainly in the Agile space, it's how can we make teams deliver better? How can we make teams deliver more efficiently? How can we surface problems better? How can we make work a bit more transparent? And these are all the things that we do in the military. How can we help surface issues where we can then prioritize what needs to be fixed first? And once you sort of take it like that and take out the fact that you know nothing about financial services, you know nothing about banking, you know nothing about software development, but you do know about people, and you do know about teams, and you do know about how to get the best out of people. I think that's the secret sauce that you get from the veteran community, certainly with their confidence and ability to lead and ability to get the best out of people, because you do that in your career.
I think sometimes something you've touched upon there, you know what I mean? You haven't worked in financial services or you haven't worked in software. There are definitely advantages, you know what I mean, if you have that. But sometimes there's a bit of a disadvantage because you can get stuck in the weeds and then miss the bigger problem. And I think sometimes it's an actual advantage to ask what others would probably say a bit of a naughty question. But in their mind, it might be a naughty question. But everyone else in the group be like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Or I wanted to ask that, but I didn't want to seem naive. And having that almost power of ignorance, if you like, allows some of the best conversations, you know what I mean, I've had as a coach. And I go, why is that there? And I, oh, that's because that does so-and-so. And then someone else go, no, it doesn't. And that conversation would never have happened if I hadn't asked. No one else will ask because they all believe they know what that does. But that understanding of what that does is very different between person A, B, and C. And that's the conversation to surface.
I totally agree. And it's that assumption that everyone is on the same page. And the reality is they're not. And so, again, I would fall into almost like an approach where if people was talking about a complex problem they were having with an app development within HSBC, and I didn't understand what they were saying, I would ask them to draw it out. I would say, draw it out as if I was 5, because then you can kind of highlight where the pain point is and then look at options from them about how you can solutionize it. You know, since leaving the military, I've worked in financial services, back in defense, with organizations that literally like working with rocket scientists, working with engineers who develop the cutting edge technology. I have got no idea what it is they're talking about. But I understand that they are teams. They are teams trying to solutionize or trying to fix a problem, trying to create something. So can I create an environment where they can explore those problems, highlight those problems and come up with solutions? Absolutely. And I think that's one of the myths sometimes within the Agile space, not the military space, is that your Scrum Master or your Agile coach needs to know all the answers. If you think that you know all the answers within an industry as an Agile coach or a Scrum Master, you're in the wrong job, because you become almost part of the problem. The solutions and the answers and the workarounds of the problems are they're fixed by the team. You can't go into an organization that makes rockets with engineers and tell them they're doing it wrong. You can't, and you can't in financial services. And I think sometimes people shoot themselves in the foot like that. The reality is, as a Scrum Master, as an Agile coach, as an Agile professional, we are there to get the best out of the teams. Teams are made of people. So we've got to build and develop how we get the best out of the people, how we get them performing better, and how we can service problems and build on things like psychological safety, coaching the leadership of the people versus the product that they're working on. And that's, you know, and that's what I love most. I love working with people.
And, you know, I think that's an issue that I see a lot in, you know, if you look on LinkedIn, JobServe, Read, whatever, you know, the job platform, I'll often see, you know, advert for Agile coach, Scrum Master, Agile delivery lead, Agile delivery manager, put whatever label you want on it. You know, must have 5 years plus as a Scrum Master, plus must have worked on and must have done X, or must, you know what I mean, be hands-on to do. And I think then you're not getting the best out of that. Exactly as you say. If you end up in the weeds of that, at best, you're going to become the bottleneck, turning into effectively the technical team lead or solution architect for that group of people. And you're not going to be coaching, Scrum Mastering, and getting the best out of that team. You're going to become that bottleneck that everyone's coming to you now.
Matt, I've seen it. And not only that, I've seen like your transformation people, whether that's Scrum Master, Agile coach, I've seen them almost add to the problem.
Yeah.
You know, they've put things in place which are slowing the work down because of a policy or a process that must be adhered to. And it's like, it doesn't challenge it. And I remember working with a client, and one of the biggest things that they needed to do, they weren't doing well. And that was planning. They were not planning properly because they found it difficult. And the transformation team involved in it found it difficult. So what they did was just stayed away from it. And almost said, I don't want to be involved in that because no one wants to do it.
It's painful.
Whereas I was like, one of the biggest issues we've got is that we're not involved in this. So let's get involved in it. Let's link with people. Let's make it enjoyable. Let's make it a fun experience. Let's change the dynamic so that when you're finishing a planning session, people are leaving there with, actually, I've got actionable stuff here. That wasn't so bad. It was great to share some ideas. It was great to surface some issues. You know, and I think that's one of the keys versus I'm not getting involved in that because that's not my job, or they should be doing that. That's one of the phrases I hate the most in any industry, is that they should be doing that.
Yeah.
Or we're working this way, why are they not doing that? And I would ask the question, what are you doing to support it? Because telling someone to follow a policy and a process is not doing your job.
No.
And if people are not doing it, then why? Maybe it's because it's too complex. Maybe it's because they don't understand it. Maybe it's because you're assuming that they have the knowledge.
Yeah. Maybe it works there, but not here. You know, so I see that a lot. And I do think that, you know, in the Agile space, if you like, we can be very good. And I've made this mistake a lot in the past, and it's something you have to learn from, I think. We make a lot of localized optimizations, which look great at first, but then the knock-on effect in the wider system, it actually has a negative effect elsewhere. But we look really good in our little bubble because we've done this now. And look how fast we're going. But we've sped up one cog in the wheel, not the whole wheel. If anything, we've broken spokes. You know, and in doing that, it's something you have to learn. But it's a hard one. And I think it's something we have to surface a lot more in the knowledge of people coming into the role. So as opposed to having to make the mistake to learn it, how do we get that learning to understand that real system? We say it often about systems thinking, but I will often see it systems thinking not applied very well until they've made the mistake, learn from it, and then it'll start to happen.
I think you're right. And I think the other thing is, which I've seen, is like competitiveness between teams on the same program. And you're like, we are doing one thing. We're building one thing. We're developing a single thing. So it shouldn't matter if your team are doing it better or have delivered more or have a more effective way of doing it than this other team.
Yeah.
And saying, well, they're not doing it as well as we're doing it. It's like, can we not sort of pull this together? Can we not have a conversation about it? Can we not share our learnings as opposed to try and lock things down? You know, and I think that's key. That just ability to communicate across teams, have like an aligned focus, and realise that it isn't a competition.
Yeah, I do see that, you know, a competitiveness between teams, and you're like, but you're all shooting for the same goal here. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
You are literally the same wider team, but sometimes you can see, like, you know, and then I think it's another sort of anti-pattern, if you like, but in the same space. My team and your team get competitive. And then it's very quick for me to be able to go, yeah, well, it's all gone wrong because they aren't as good as our team. And that's when that blame culture starts coming, as opposed to we have a problem that we need to fix, as opposed to they've given us a problem and they've got to fix it. Again, it's that systems thinking piece. How do you apply that systems thinking piece across it? And, you know, somewhere I've worked in, a very big big program that's gone across multiple partners feeding in, you start to hear that blame culture going across the partners. It's like you're all part of the same way, that you're all trying to get the same thing done over a long period of time. And it comes back to that, the value, right? Customer collaboration over contract negotiation.
And I think again, it's about how you communicate. And whether we like it or not, we are humans. There are people we like and there are people we don't like. And there is not a lot we can do about that.
No.
But I think in a professional sense, it's how do you build relationships?
Yeah.
How do you, I have a saying like credibility builds currency. And I think
100%.
early on in a conversation, or early on in a program, early on in a job, it's like, how do you build credibility with the person you're working with? And that might be doing some of the jobs that you're not down to do, or you're not, it doesn't fall within your role, but it's important. It's important for you to think, actually, I need to do this to show capability, to show credibility, and almost then say, great, I've got a seat at the table now, so I can start influencing.
It builds trust.
Huge.
People don't have to like you to trust you. There's probably some scientific thing that disproves that. However, I've worked with people that I don't particularly like the person, but I know if they say they're going to do something, it's fire and forget. It's done. You know what I mean? I know I can rely on them. So that trust is there. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean we're going for a drink on a Friday night together. Not that I drink anymore, but you know what I mean? I don't want to spend time with them in my social life, but I know if they've said, I've got this, Matt, then I don't have to think about it. They've got that because we've built that trust. And again, it comes back to, you know what I mean, one of those values. It's individuals and interactions over, processes and tools.
I think like it's a huge, having a relationship with the people you're working with is so important. And certainly in our role, where you're mostly a transformation team, you're mostly getting dropped in, try and make things better and pull out. And a lot of these, a lot of teams and individuals working in the industry, engineers, whether it's finance, wherever it is, and they've been in an organization for 20, 30 years, they've seen this.
Yeah.
They've seen it multiple times. So it's almost like it's okay. And you've got to consider the fact that they've just got a bit of change fatigue. They've got a bit of, this is another fad, this is another thing. You're another consultant. You're trying to come up with more efficiencies, which means reduction in headcount. And I think in our role, it's about working out how do you build a relationship with them to say, listen, we're just here to improve your way of working. We're not here to hammer a system on top of what you're doing. It's how do we get the best out of your team?
Yeah. And then that's something I'll often say is, especially early on, building that trust, credibility with the team. Look, I'm not here to get you to work harder. What I'm here to do is get a sustainable and predictable pace, because we can work with a predictable pace. And if we can improve it over time, yes, we will look to do that. But I don't want you working, longer or harder. I want us to fix the problems that are stopping it being a sustainable pace, that is stopping it delivering at a predictable pace. Because if we have that predictable pace, we can work with that. If it's sustainable, we're not going to burn people out. People aren't overburdened and sitting at their desk thinking, oh my God, I just want to get out of here. This is horrid. So if we can get that and we get that improvement, then great. But sustainable, predictable pace of delivery is what I'm looking for.
And I think it's how you present that.
Yeah.
How you present whatever it is you're trying to implement, how do you present it to the team? How do you deliver that in training? We are both trainers, Matt. We love delivering training. I love facilitating. It's a real passion of mine.
Absolutely.
My passion is not because I like teaching. My passion is because I like being creative in the space where I want these people who are in this session to leave having A, enjoyed it, and B, took away some of the knowledge. So it's steering away from this. We're coming in to do a transformation, and here's our slide deck with 486 slides, and if you follow this line by line, then you will be transformed. And it's even if they're introducing Scrum, or they're trying to introduce Kanban, or they're just trying to improve Agile ways of working, it's like, how can you innovatively get it across so they understand some of it?
Do you know, it's something, I mentioned there about sustainable, predictable pace, and you've mentioned Kanban. One of the things I love about the Kanban method is the static model. And everyone always concentrates on sort of steps 2 to 7 of the static model. But the first one is, what makes your service or product fit for purpose? And that's the understanding is this fit for purpose from a, customer point of view? So someone I'm delivering the service to, is it fit for purpose if they're waiting, 24 hours for, I don't know, a pizza? Probably not. Is it fit for purpose if they're waiting for a business decision in 24 hours? Maybe, so it depends. So that's going to change depending where you are. And then from a providing point of view, what makes it fit for purpose? From a cost point of view, from an organizational risk point of view. So being able to understand what makes your offering fit for purpose for you as that first step really does get people to understand what they're doing, as opposed to, let's put this framework on top of our team and then they're going to be much better and faster, do twice the half work in half the time. That's, people often get that wrong. That twice the work in half the time is twice the impactful work, because you stop in doing the non-impactful work. And that's what that fit for purpose understanding comes back to. I don't think enough teams, and dare I say it, enough of the folk in our space, in the Agile space, really slow teams down to get them to understand what makes you fit for purpose from all these different angles before we really go off and try and change. Because if we're all aligned on that understanding, then the change is easier.
It's not only just that, Matt. I do it with a lot of leadership workshops and a lot of teams workshops. And the first thing I do is I do an activity using liberating structure 1, 2, 4 all. And what I say to them is, on your own, A4 sheet of paper and pen, write down what the purpose of your team is. The purpose of your team, no conferring. And if you've got a room of 15 people, you'll not get 2 people write the same thing down. And you're all in the same team doing the same thing. So now what we try and do is you then do pair up. Yeah. Can you blend it? Then you do the 4, and then can we together now? Because you're starting as a baseline and saying, right, are we all agreed that the purpose of this team is this? And then it's like, well, yeah. Versus just assuming that they all know that, going into a static workshop or going into a retrospective or some kind of problem-solving activity, assuming that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
And I think that's so key. And it's like you said, is your service fit for purpose? You mentioned a couple of Agile values. Just for the sake of it, let's throw in some principles, right?
Yeah.
The one of the the probably most poorly worded principle, but arguably one of the most important, which is simplicity. The art of maximizing the work not done is essential.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's like everyone's doing loads of work. Is all of it bringing value?
Yeah. Can
we reduce some of that work to focus on the stuff that brings value to our customer? And then we can deliver more.
Do you know, it's funny, a leader I've worked with very recently, the amount of time I would spend with him, and we were talking about there's too much work in the system. And he'd say, I absolutely agree. And I would go into the teams within his department. And they're busy, they're flat out, and don't get me wrong, they're delivering complex stuff, and it's really good, but they believe everything that they're doing is there. And I will hear him say you don't have to worry about that is just noise. Stop doing it. I've heard him say, please stop doing that, I don't want you to do that. You know what I mean? This stuff, yes, but that, don't do it. But they have this different belief, and it comes back to that alignment piece. Do you know what I mean? From top to bottom. And that's something I really like about the OKR structure. If you can get that right with people, with, understand that common objective, and, you might have, a number of them, but keep that number small, please, if you're trying this. I do see that anti-button quite a lot. But if you can align it and then align the work to it, it's going to show up very quickly. Yeah. The work that doesn't align to it. So yeah, having that, but it's funny how often I've seen it. And like I said, one of the more recent examples where I've heard them just saying to people, don't do it, don't need it. Honestly, it's noise, stop it. But they've still got the belief, and they'll maybe even start doing it in the background. You're like, why?
But I think that some of that time it's a worry, because they don't want to stop the work, because they feel, if I stop this, do you know what I mean? Then am I empowered to stop it? Am I allowed to stop it? I've been delivering this stuff for 5 years, and this is the way we've always done it. And now I'm getting told to stop doing it.
It's hard to break.
And you worry. It's hard to break a habit. But there are, I think, highlighting value, whatever value is key. Yeah. And realizing that it is, it's not a group of individuals trying to do all their jobs and achieve stuff. It is about how we can deliver stuff as a team.
Yeah,
takes away that. Well, it's okay, your work's not a priority this week, so we're going to focus all on this.
Yeah.
But it's still important,
Yeah, exactly. It's just prioritization. And I do think, from that leadership bit, and again, if I go back to that, one of the things you have to be able to do is lead with the values to change the behavior. And if people in the teams don't see it from, leadership, it's very hard to get that behavior change. So I'll always say, if you want different outcomes, you've got to change the practices. If you want to change the practices, you've got to lead with the values that reflect the decision making, the decision filter to change to that practice. So you've got to lead with those values. And that's something that without having those on display from leadership to act as a decision filter for people when it comes to those tough choices, very hard to get that change to do. So that's something I will do quite a lot when I'm working with leadership is, right, okay, if this is the outcome we're going for, what values is going to reflect that? How does your behavior reflect that value so people see it on display? Yeah. So we've spoken quite a lot there about, you in the world of agility and so forth. I want to kind of stay on the same theme, but change it. The Not Another Agile conference. Me, you, the wonderful Jack and Naomi pulled it together in the Titanic Hotel in Liverpool. We have the next evolution of it happening in a zoo. Never has it been such an apt location, I think.
For a gaggle of idealists.
Yeah. Before I talk about the second conference, what was there? Two things. When we had the first conference, what were you most excited about before it? And then after it, what was the highlight for you? So 2 questions.
Okay. First of all, the conference itself. I had the idea of delivering a conference. I know I got you on board. You were convinced, and it took a little bit of work to get Jack on board. But I knew it needed all 3 of us. I knew that the skill set we would bring as individuals and as a team, with Jack, Naomi, Yumi, I knew we could pull it off.
Yeah.
That was the first thing. There was lots of risk, but I remember having the conversation where we were like, what's the maximum amount of money we are willing to commit to this and it fail?
Yeah.
How much are we willing to lose if we don't sell a single ticket, no one comes, and we just stood in the hotel by ourselves? And we agreed that price. And I think once we agreed that and we committed to that, that was the first thing. Then it was obviously, what does it look like? And for me, I just wanted the conference to be different. I've been to a number of conferences which are generic hotels, generic conference centres, generic talks, all of that kind of stuff. And I didn't want it to be anything like that. I wanted it to be different. I had this vision which, built on by you, built on by Jack, that we could pull together this fun day. And I wanted it to have live music, and I wanted loads of stuff. And obviously I was tuned in rightly together. And what we created was something brilliant. It was something I was immensely proud of. To work with you, to work with Jack and Naomi, and to pull it off was just sensational. The speakers we had were brilliant. The guests, the relationships we formed of the people who came. And obviously when you pull a conference together or you do stuff like that, lots of your friends will come.
Yeah.
And for me, it was the people who none of us knew who bought a ticket.
Yeah. And
that was a bit of a light bulb moment. We don't know any of these people. And about half the people who just weren't in our circles, but they all came.
Yeah.
So I absolutely loved it. What was I looking forward to before it was spending the day with us. And I want the challenge of overcoming any problems that would happen on the day.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I was at no point was I anxious on the day. I had zero anxiety. I knew it was going to be a good day. Afterwards, the highlight of the whole thing for me was, other than the speakers, which were great, was the live podcast. It just, for me, it brought it to life.
That.
And the fact that it was unscripted, and it could have been catastrophic. Mate, what if nobody, and we remember having the conversation, what if no one puts a name in? What are we going to do then?
Yeah.
What if it's all people from the same organisation come in and but it wasn't. The diversity, the randomness, the transparency of it made it brilliant for me. And I thought that was a fantastic, Jack's got a great podcast. He's brilliant at his craft.
He's had some excellent guests on as well.
Yeah. He's in the top 3 podcasts. And we can list them. We can talk about podcasts a bit later. But that was brilliant. And from the second it finished, I almost had that post-event blues. I loved it that much, and
Yeah.
I wanted to go again. And the fact that we're doing it again, the fact that it's in another brilliant location with the same ethos behind it, it has to be fun. It has to be different. We want live music. We want good food. We want really good merch. It has to just not be another conference, and that's where the name is.
Yeah.
This one's definitely not just another Agile conference.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of thing that it makes it more exciting for me.
Yeah, definitely. For me, you know what I mean. The first time that we did it, I was nervous going into it because we hadn't done this before, and you know what I mean. I was delivering a session on the day, and we'd had some teething problems in the morning. One of the things I'll share, which I thought was brilliant, and this is a learning. There was a talk from one of the people, and we said, look, we just want to check when you plug your laptop in here that this works okay. And the AV people had just left, and we plugged it in, and it worked perfectly. That's great. So we plugged it out, and then the screen was dead. And we're like, right, that should be connecting back to the main one now, because he's just going to use that one screen for 45 minutes. And then when we come back together, we have to know that it's gone.
That was there was some panic stations. I think it's there were a lot of lessons like we made the assumption that it would all just work.
Yeah.
Plug and it would all work.
Yeah.
And the fact that if we hadn't of like checked, you know, we that's all people would have talked about. And I'm very much a believer in this. You know, if you run a conference, run an event, run training, and it's the best training, the best thing you've ever delivered, but there's this small problem, people focus on the small problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I always say whenever you do something, every time it's a big room planning event, people are, I think that's going to be too much food. I would much rather we had too much than not enough. Because if it's too much, we can deal with it. We can do something with it. We can give it away. We can phone a charity, whatever we want to do. We can deal with that. But if there's not enough, that's all people are going to remember was starving that day. Weren't enough food.
I think looking forward to the conference next year in April 2027.
22nd
we have got, again, it's like, not that I thought we could trump it, but we've got some brilliant speakers from across the industry, from outside the industry. We've got this incredible venue. We've got there are so many exciting things, and in true Agile fashion, we've responded to feedback. You know, one of the things that people wanted more of after the first conference was more workshops, more opportunities to do that. So that's exactly what we've done. We've baked in more. We've doubled it with incredible people, and I think if you didn't come to the first one, you had this huge FOMO. The second one's going to be better. It really is, and there is an opportunity just to have a fantastic day with great people and have that, you know, fill your Agile cup. Do you know what I mean? Of just like
fill your Agile cup in a frickin' zoo.
Oh yeah, and it's in a zoo. Yeah.
You can literally, you know, in your lunch break, you can go and see the monkeys, the lions, the tigers, the zebras.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to do that? It's phenomenal. And I did a recce recently, and I saw the venue, and I must admit, it blew my mind because, you know, in truth, on the first one, we did this wonderful hotel called the Titanic Hotel in Liverpool. If ever you stay in somewhere in Liverpool, check that out because it's one of the best hotels I've stayed in ever. It's brilliant, and the whole vibe of it was amazing. Yeah, it had that industrial chic. It's spectacular. It's brilliant. But I genuinely think we've topped it because this place, it's literally in the middle of a zoo, and the layout, the building, everything, it's phenomenal.
It's an incredible venue. It's an incredible venue for what's going to be a brilliant conference. I can't wait. Yeah. The fact that we've got to wait till April is frustrating. Yeah. But
what do you think? You know, what are you most excited about? Is there one speaker, one workshop, one specific thing? What is there? Something you're really, really excited?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, a fellow veteran, Paul Harris. He aka the Warrior Walker. Yeah. This guy was ex-Royal Marines and has walked to the circumference of the UK twice. Okay,
so nice. He did it twice.
Learning so much about resilience and about overcoming adversity and the rest of it. And the fact that we've got him in as a speaker, he's just got a book out. His book's doing really, really well, and he's just a brilliant human. So to have him at the conference to bring an alternative approach is amazing. And also, I love training. I love facilitation. So having Rochelle Williams come on and do training from the back of the room, that's exciting for me.
Absolutely.
Because facilitation is a leadership skill. It's a skill that everyone, I think, should hone and refine.
100%.
And having parts of that where people can leave there with a couple of
applicable skills.
Applicable skills. I think I'm going to implement that. That's really exciting for me.
Yeah. For me, I'm mega excited. James Enoch, someone I've worked with in the past, mentor of mine, fabulous guy. I'm really excited. He's closing it out for us. James is phenomenal. The owner of Adaptivist, and he's going to be talking in around the sort of Adaptivist design principles and how they help organizations with that and what they've done in the past and the learnings from it. So I'm mega excited for that. Former colleague of mine, up in Scotland, Safpal Singh. Many of you will know Saf. He is a bit of a legend in the community. Saf's agreed to come and do a talk for us, so I'm very, very excited about that. And Tony Richards. Tony Richards is someone I've been lucky to be, in an Agile coach camp with, and obviously came to the conference last year and really helped out a lot of our,
He was a bit of a game changer actually, because he came and without asking,
he just pulled the camera out.
He brought he's a keen photographer.
Yeah.
He had a top of the range camera, and we hadn't factored that bit in.
Yeah.
And on the day, he just pulled his camera out, and the photos he's got from that are memorable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we almost, like, that was something that we did oversee.
Yeah.
And so he's a brilliant guy.
Good
he's a brilliant guy. Yeah.
He is fantastic. I know, we spoke about Jack earlier. Jack has a huge amount of respect for Tony, because I think they've worked in the past together. And,
you mentioned earlier on, like, what am I looking forward to most about it? And the speakers are definitely it, and the event itself. But I am really looking forward to the challenges the day brings.
Yeah.
From when we get there first thing in the morning, me, you, Jack, Naomi, just pulling our skills together, pulling our sleeves up, making sure every bit of detail is covered for all of the people who have paid for a ticket.
Yeah.
And I think that will never be lost on me.
No.
It will never, ever be lost on me that we are delivering an event and people are physically paying money, hard-earned money, to come and watch and to learn and be a part of it. And for me, that makes it really special. And it makes it special to do it with you and with Jack and Naomi and say, let's make this the best.
Do you know something I was blown away by the first time we did this, and it's looking the same this time. So, if you are thinking of coming, I would encourage you to buy a ticket quick, because they are moving very, very quickly this time round. Was the diversity of the crowd, as in it wasn't just a bunch of Agile coaches and Scrum Masters coming together and talking about Agile. There was, people from all, one of the guys on the podcast was a dev. Yeah, if you remember.
Yeah.
A number of the talks were from product owner. One of the talks was from a entrepreneur who's got, a global mouthguard brand. So yeah, the diversity of people in that room, their backgrounds, people who are, leaders across some pretty big, big meaty organizations, people who own their own consultancies, bunch of people from very big consultancies, and so forth. There's whole walks of life, financial services institutions. There's a bunch of different people, but they were all there. And I think if we can recreate that, dare I say it, vibe, that was the differential for me. And I think the marketing that we did with it, the live music, the promises in around what it is going to be, bringing that to life has created something different. And I think we need to do more of that again. And then some. It's got to be bigger and better.
And I think the team organising it, we really complement each other well, because you've got ridiculous ideas.
Hello.
And then you've got like stupid levels of enthusiasm, and then you've got a level of maturity and a level of like almost anchor.
Yeah.
Not to use a Navy pun for Jack, but he keeps us grounded.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
and I think, do you know the other bit and we probably don't say it out loud enough? Naomi keeps us in check from the reality. Jack definitely thinks of it from a risk point of view, and that reality, that anchor bit. But I think Naomi does from a business point of view. She's really thinks.
Let's not mess about, mate. Naomi's in charge of all this, and we will do whatever she tells us to do.
100%. I'm scared of her.
So yeah. But yeah, really looking forward to that conference.
Yeah. So we've spoken a lot about your transition out of the military and then into agility, and then we've spoken a bit about a conference. But something that very few of them, but some of the folks down the camera might not realise is you are the sock baron who invented the brand Fives and Twenties. So tell us an overview of that Fives and Twenties. I understand what it represents, but for others, what's Fives and Twenties about?
Okay, so I will go back just one slightly. First of all, I think a sock baron's a stretch, but I also run a podcast. I run a podcast with my brother Paul, supported by Wayne Smallman, and we are a veteran-owned podcast, and we talk to veterans who have gone into business.
Yes.
Okay, that's what it is. It is nowhere near as professional as this. We don't have lights. We don't have a studio. It's all done remotely, and it's something that Paul and I, both veterans, can stay connected with the veteran community. We have recorded over 60 episodes of people who have developed everything from their own coffee brand to whiskey brands to fashion to providing services and ultra marathons and everything in between, including a number of really inspirational people who have gone on to achieve like crazy good stuff. Most recent episode, we had a guy who serves in the Royal Air Force who was the pilot for the Jamaican bobsleigh team in the Winter Olympics in Beijing. You can't make this stuff up. And his story about how he literally DM'd the Jamaican Olympic Committee to say, I've just done a trial at bobsleigh and I'm pretty good at it. I've got Jamaican heritage. What are your thoughts? And that led to a series of events which took him to Calgary, to trials in 2018, which led to him being not only a part of the Jamaican bobsleigh team, but the pilot, the captain, the leader at an Olympic Games. And that kind of stuff blows my mind. So basically, I'd always had an itch to scratch anyway about going into business, about trying something. And my idea and my business is a sock brand. I do a lot of running. Yes. Running is really hard. Doing phys and doing any type of PT is really hard. But what's really key most of the time is you need to have socks on. And I thought, there's lots of people doing fashion, lots of people doing stuff, but I had this idea of creating really good performance socks with a bit of a message. The message is, the company's called 5 and 20s, and the message is exactly that. So 5 and 20s is taken from the battlefield. It is a skill. It is an awareness drill where when you move into a location, when you're on patrol, you check your immediate area around 5 meters, looking after yourself, and then you look into that 20-meter space as to where you're going to go. And you're looking for any threats, any issues. The kind of the pivot and the turn on it and how I've took it into the socks is, the 5s represents checking on yourself. You know, we are at a period where there is a significant crisis within men's mental health and with mental health in general. And doing PT, running, doing phys is a release for lots of people, certainly the veteran community. So the 5 represents checking on yourself, and the 20 is very much just that close circle. You know, your friends, your family. Just check in on those people. You know, check in on those people, and that's kind of the message behind the socks. So doing the podcast gave me the confidence to think, why not? Why not try it? So the journey went from there to reaching out to loads of suppliers, coming up with some designs, trialing loads of socks, and I ended up finding a supplier which had delivered what I wanted. And in the January, I was doing a challenge called I think 496 it's called, where you do, on the first of the month, you do a kilometre, the second of the month, you do 2 kilometres, third of the month, you do 3 kilometres, and by the end of the month, you run 496 kilometres. It's in January, it's cold, it's wet, and I've got a treadmill. So I was like, I'm going to do it. And I had 2 pairs of the socks, which I had as a sample. And I thought, I'm just going to wear a pair and then wash them, wear a pair, wash them, wear a pair, wash them. Because what I didn't want to do was get behind a product, tell everyone and market a product, and then you all say it's rubbish, or it comes apart, or it changes colour, or they're not very comfortable. So I hammered the socks, washing them, tumble drying them, wearing them, treadmill, increasing the miles, increasing all that kind of stuff, and they just held up really well. So then it was a conversation with my wife, similar to what we had a conversation with our conference, which is how much are we willing to commit and lose if this goes wrong?
Doesn't go.
And how much are we willing to afford? And we made that decision. My wife was totally behind me and supported it. And I thought, let's give it a go. So ordered, they came in, and then it was just a huge learning journey, you know, about building a social media platform, building, and how do you market stuff? How do you post? Setting up a Shopify, learning about e-commerce, learning about search engine optimization, learning about all of those kind of things. And it was really exciting. And again, similar to the conference, when I released the socks, all of my friends bought a pair, which was great. But the real sort of like the real highlight was when people who had seen something on social media, had heard about the socks, bought them.
Yeah.
And then the feedback started coming in. The idea was I wanted to keep it as lean as possible. I didn't want hundreds of lines. I didn't want hundreds of different styles. I wanted to keep it really lean, and just see, can I do this around my work in life or around my family?
Side hustle, right?
A bit of a side hustle, but also an education for me.
Yeah.
To a point where I spoke to a colleague who's a really successful entrepreneur, and he said, don't get size smalls. He said, because I'm in a clothing, he's got his own clothing brand. He said, and whenever you're finishing a wave, you're always left with smalls. He said, so I was like, brilliant. My demographic is mostly, men who are running.
Yeah.
Let me just do that. And sold out the socks. And the feedback was the biggest thing. So much feedback. Not only from people saying, Matt, actually, these are all right. Which, again, no offense taken.
Yeah. I've got to be honest. I've got a few pairs of these. I wear it to the gym all the time. I'm not much of a runner. I'll use it more as a warm up or warm down. But I will, lift, bang average weights, and they're mega comfortable. Dog walks, longer walks, so forth. I wear them all the time.
I've had feedback from people who've worn them for ultra marathons, from backyard ultras, from people who organise events where there's a guy currently who's organised an event where they're covering 5,000 kilometres running between every city. Yeah. He likes them. And if he's a credible athlete who wears them, I'll take that feedback.
The bit you touched upon it earlier, out of the packet, they were brilliant, right? But most socks are out of the packet. Very rare, unless it's a proper cheap one. But I've washed these, into the 100 of times, I would say, you know what I mean? And yeah, the durability and washed, tumble dried, washed out on the line, you know what I mean? They're fantastic. They're really good. I'm not just saying it, I genuinely stand behind that.
I appreciate that. And I think that was the thing. The feedback was almost too good for me to not give it another go. Yeah. So we sold out of the initial order, totally sold out, 400 pairs of socks. And then it was a conversation, what do we do next? Do we go again? So I decided to go again. Put another order in. It included a couple of colours.
Nice.
Because again, the socks.
What colours we got?
Colours we've gone for like a pink glow, and we've also gone for like a luminous blue. So I wanted to make a couple of limited edition colours. The socks themselves are white and black writing, or black with white writing. Really simple, really clear. That's the idea. Really clear, really sharp, really durable with that message. Yeah. And so we've gone for a pink and a blue pair. I've also included smalls 1 to 5 because I was getting
feedback, right?
So many messages saying, you haven't got my size. Loads of female athletes and female, women who run or hit the gym and lift saying, I really want a pair, but you don't know my size. And then I had other people saying, oh, have you got any brighter colours? Because they're black and white. So again, conversation, speaking to lots of colleagues who work in this industry, I thought I'm just going to go for it. So second order's in, it's received. I'm in the process of just sorting it all out with the intention to release. I'm not sure when the podcast will come out, but these will get released on Friday, the 31st of July. So they'll be available. Yeah. Okay. And they're limited edition run, the colours, because I just want to see. Yeah. This is a learning experience for me. And if it's successful, I will continue to do it. I love doing it. I love learning. And this is very much the socks are in my office. Yeah. I've got old Lego boxes, which I store them in. I package them myself. Do you know what I mean? It was like getting the packaging, and people said, oh, you could invest money and have like bespoke packaging. Yeah. And I was like, what a brilliant idea. And then you speak to fellow entrepreneurs, and Luke Dalton's a good example, who owns Contact Coffee. He's like, it's just getting ripped open and thrown in the bin. Yeah. So why invest in the packaging?
It takes off the
profit. Yeah. So I was the same thing. I ordered like recycled decent boxes and then bought a stamp. So I'm there in my office stamping the boxes to have that individual and that branding. Yeah. That's the other thing I just want to be really clear on. This wasn't about making profit. It wasn't just about making money. It was about a learning experience. Yeah. And to that end, I am a very proud veteran, and I'll be donating sort of 20% of all my profit to military charities. So, and at the end of every year, I'll work out what I've done and present to a military charity, because it's important. Military charities they serve an incredible purpose. Absolutely. A lot of these military organisations provide a great service, and I see myself as a proud veteran. I'm one who wouldn't have been able to do lots of this stuff without my network of veterans and serving personnel.
Matt, thank you so much. I'm a big fan of 5s and 20s, as you know, and I'm 100% ordering on the 31st. So, yes. But listen, thank you so much for taking the time to come down. Really appreciate it. It's been awesome. And let's get you back on in the near future. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Maybe when I am a sock baron. Who knows? Do you know what I mean? It's.
I want you to go on Dragon's Den and just turn them all down. Nah.
Yeah. If you are watching, you want to invest in socks, then I'm down with it.
Like you could get them on Dragon's Den.
No, thank you, mate. As I say, it's nice to be involved in a really professional podcast, unlike the one I do with my brother from the office.
And what's it called?
It's called the Coffee and Poo Bag Podcast.
The
Cat Bee Podcast. Available on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube. 60 episodes in. We're on Instagram, talking to veterans who are doing incredible stuff in business and beyond. So yeah, Coffee and Poo Bag Podcast.
Awesome. Matt, thank you so much.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers.